I let my wife explore her sexuality. Now I'm being left behind. Hello, my name is Alex, 31M, and I've been married to my wife Evie, 28F, for nearly 4 years. We've been together for 7. She has always been open about her bisexuality, which I fully embraced. We were rock solid. Looking back, I think everything shifted in 2023 when she met Kira, 30F lesbian. At first, I was happy she had a new friend after our big move. She'd come home talking about Kira constantly, how funny she was, how talented, how much she admired her. So, I even suggested we invite Kira over for dinner. The night I met Kira, I liked her. She was easy to talk to and was also quite nerdy like me. But at the time, I didn't see what was happening. After a few too many glasses of wine, the topic of threesomes came up. We laughed about it, but a few days later, Kira DM'd me asking if I'd been serious. That's when Evie admitted she had thought about it too. Not because she wanted to replace me but because she wanted to explore a side of herself she had never fully explored before we dated. She framed it as something we could experience together, and because I loved her, I said yes. At first it was fine. But over time, something changed. I started to feel like an outsider in my marriage. When we had the 3 ways, it always ended up just those two having sex and I was left to sleep downstairs. Then Kira's lease ended, and Evie asked if she could temporarily move in. I hesitated but agreed because I didn't want Kira struggling. And maybe, deep down, I hoped that if I showed I was supportive, Evie would see that I was still the person she wanted to build a life with. Then, in December, Evie told me she was pregnant. After years of trying, it felt like everything was falling back into place. I cried. I was so ready for this next chapter, for us to be a family. But weeks later she told me the truth. She had fallen in love with Kira. She swore she still loved me, and that our marriage was the foundation of everything. She didn't want to lose me, she just couldn't deny her feelings for Kira anymore. And in a way I understood. She wanted us all to be a family. She wanted to make it work. She said Kira had always dreamed of being a mother and that maybe, just maybe, this could be something beautiful for all of us. I set boundaries. I told her I wouldn't be sidelined. I told her I couldn't be in a marriage where I felt like an afterthought. I know how naive that sounds. But when you love someone, when you've built a life with them, when you've dreamed of a future together, you don't just walk away. I just hope she doesn't either. How do I save my relationship? I recorded my wife cheating on me and I can't stop watching it. A couple weeks ago I decided I wanted to surprise my wife with a kid-free night out. My parents live about an hour and a half away from us and I arranged for the kids to stay with them for the weekend. Usually when I go to my parents I am gone until later in the evening. We spend all day there and leave around dinner time. This time, I was dropping the kids off and immediately going home so I could surprise my wife and we could go out as soon as possible. I had made reservations at a nice restaurant and was hoping to go to a few places for some drinks first. I left at 8:30 and was back in our housing plan before 12:30. As I pulled onto my street I saw a truck parked in front of my house. I did not recognize it. I assumed it was someone seeing the neighbors though because it's not that unusual for someone to park in front of our house. I parked a few houses away thinking I would sneak into the house and surprise my wife instead of pulling in the driveway and going in the garage. I went in through a basement door. I was as quiet as possible but as soon as I walked in I heard her making sounds from the floor above. When I first heard it I thought she was just by herself, maybe having some personal time. I didn't want to interrupt her privacy and embarrass her so I was going to go back to my car and just go in the garage so she would know I was home. Then I heard a man's voice. I immediately felt sick. My heart felt like it was going to explode out of my chest. It is hard to describe how I felt in this moment. I decided to go upstairs. I had no desire to confront them, I just wanted to see what was going on. I moved slowly and quietly and went up the stairs. The door was halfway open. The kitchen was empty but I could tell they were in the living room. It was obvious what was going on at this point by the sounds. There was no way for me to look in the living room without them seeing me. I pulled out my phone and opened my camera app. I put my phone just around the corner of a wall. This part is so hard to write. I could see my wife with a man I didn't recognize. I won't go into detail on what they were doing but I think you can figure it out. I started recording it, I was thinking that I needed a record of it for whatever I decided to do in the future. I just stood there in my kitchen watching this all unfold on my phone screen. I felt like I could just scream at any moment but for some reason I just froze completely. This went on for several minutes. She finally jumped off of him and made a comment about going to the bedroom and they went upstairs. She even made a comment about how much time they had left. I walked into the living room and found the guy's pants. I took his wallet out and took pictures of his driver's license. I know his name and his address now. I've never met him. I have no idea how my wife knows him. I left the house the same way I entered. I went back to my car and cried like the pathetic man I am. I decided to watch the video to make sure it recorded. I watched it all. I'll spare the details but I sat in my car for at least half an hour. I couldn't drive to my parents and get the kids as I would have to explain why. I decided that I would pull in the driveway, open the garage and just pretend like I was there to surprise her. I took my time getting into the house. I made a lot of noise. When I saw her she was very flustered asking me why I was home etc. She was in a robe and said she was just getting ready for a bath. I told her about my plans and she seemed excited. She poured us both a glass of wine and said we should pre-game before getting ready. I don't think I talked much really. She took me into the living room. I'm not proud of what I let happen. I could faintly see the guy sneaking downstairs and going to the basement stairs, but I didn't say or do anything. I just let my wife continue doing what she was doing to me. Since that day I have watched the video of her repeatedly. I can't bring myself to make any decisions on what I should do next. She seems to know something is wrong with me because she's asked a few times if I'm okay. I feel worthless, and every time I hit a low point I watch that video again. I feel like I've watched it at least 10 times a day since I caught them. I 35M cheated on my wife 36F. She left without telling me anything. How can I get her back? I know I'm aware of my faults, I know I screwed up. She and I had something beautiful. She is still the love of my life. We were together for 10 years, 2 dating and 8 married, but I made a huge mistake and cheated on her. It was just once, just one damn time. Somehow she found out. I never knew how because I haven't been able to talk to her since then. I guess she found something on my phone. I came home that afternoon as usual and everything felt weird. The house felt emptier. I quickly realized that her things were gone. I panicked. I started calling her over and over, but her phone didn't even ring. Suddenly I saw some papers on the table. She was divorcing me. Under the divorce papers there was a note that said, "This is what you do with cheaters." That was the last thing I got from her 2 years ago now. Of course I called the contact information for her lawyer, who has been the only bridge between us. But he just told me that he was her legal representative and that she didn't want to see me. I fought, I got angry, but in the end her lawyer just told me that it would be better if I got my own lawyer. I didn't want to. I absolutely refused to accept that 10 years of relationship would end like this. I know I have failed, but I always wanted to fix it. I know that if she gave me the chance, I could make that sweet and special girl I met more than 10 years ago fall in love with me again. I know that I can make her forgive me. After all, many couples go through similar things and get over it. Why can't we be one more couple in that statistic? Why after 8 years of marriage am I thrown away like garbage for a mistake? I don't deserve so much indifference. I haven't been able to see her or even hear her voice in 2 years. 2 years of not being able to see or talk to the person you love the most is too much of a punishment. This situation has destroyed me emotionally, mentally, and even physically. I ended up consuming an unhealthy amount of alcohol, weeks of barely eating, not sleeping. I was a zombie for months. I was just functioning on automatic. I wanted to die, but I couldn't let myself die because I always held on to hope that she would come back. My therapist says it's really hard when you can't get closure from a relationship because your mind can't process that the relationship is over, so you're always thinking that person will knock on the door or that you'll wake up from sleep and they'll be there by your side. The divorce was finalized over a year ago. I'll be honest, I didn't make it easy. I didn't want to get divorced and I still don't understand how we can be divorced. I asked for couples therapy but she refused. I know from my lawyer that her lawyer advised her to go at least once or twice. But she refused. It took quite a while, but finally the divorce happened. I can't even describe the feeling I felt and still feel, like if a piece of me had been cut out. I know I hurt her, I know I failed, but I think we all deserve a second chance. When I couldn't take the pain anymore, I decided to start therapy. My therapist doesn't give me advice to get her back. He only focuses on me moving on with my life, encouraging me to meet new people and go out on dates. But I don't want to. At this point I'm not even interested in sex anymore. A few days ago something happened that completely shattered me. I was having a few beers with my friend at my house. Let's call him Nick. We were both pretty drunk. I started talking about my wife. And he said to me, "You should put more effort into getting over her. She's over you and is happy having a life away from you. You should do the same. You can't live in this self-pity all your life." Something in his words hit me, but not in the way he expected. He spoke with a lot of confidence that my wife is over me and is happy now. How does he know that? At this point, I got angry and started pressuring him to talk. He refused. I pressed as hard as I could. I cried. I begged him to tell me if he knew something. I needed to know something about her. Until he finally told me. His wife has been in contact with my wife for the last year. They were great friends, and I remember Sabrina, my friend's wife, being very sad about losing contact with my wife. The thing is that my wife went to live in Norway, got married to a guy there, and is about 7 months pregnant. I felt like dying. I literally felt like dying with this information. How could she do this to me? How could it be that while I was crying, getting drunk, missing her and wanting to die every day, she was happily on the other side of the world, getting married, fucking and getting pregnant by another guy? How could it be that she didn't have a child with me in many, many years, to the point that I thought she was infertile, but she got pregnant by this new guy so easily? Where did this guy come from? I have no answers for absolutely anything, and I feel like I can't go on with my life without these answers. The only thing I can think of is that she had revenge sex with the first Norwegian guy she came across and got pregnant and decided to keep the baby. Maybe she got married because she wanted to stay in that country legally, and I guess like in most countries, getting married is a good option for that. I don't know, these thoughts are killing me. I refuse to think that she is in love with him. I need to contact her, I need to talk to her, I need to know what's going on because she acts like our 10-year history and 8-year marriage is nothing to her. I need advice on how to act. I feel the impulse of travel to where she is and look for her, but how could I do that? I don't know what city she's in, I don't know where she lives, I don't have a number to contact her, she closed her social media, her family is small, they don't live in the same country as me and all of them blocked me. I'm totally lost. I don't know what to do at this point. I still want her back, yes, even pregnant. I feel like if this is a nightmare and I need to wake up now.